Start of the afternoon with the courts. An undercover investigator, Anas Anas, has declined an order by an Accra High Court to allow former Ghana Football Association President Nyantakyi to identify him in chambers before he testifies in open court. In his face mask on Wednesday, May 17, the court, presided over by Justice Mary Lucy Simmons, ruled to allow Anas to disguise himself during his testimony, but must be identified by Mr. Nyantakyi in chambers first. But a statement by the investigative firm Tiger IPI explained that allowing Anas to be identified by Mr. Nyantakyi in the judge's chambers could compromise his security and safety. The statement added that one of its investigators, Ahmed Swale, was killed on the same day he had engagement with the Attorney General's office on his testimony against the accused person in the above-styled case. But what does this decline by Anas Anas mean for this case going forward? Let's speak with Vitus Bang. He's a private legal practitioner and a lecturer at the University of Professional Studies for some explanations or perspectives into this. Vitus, thank you for your time with us on the program. My first question to you is, what does this mean for the case going forward?
Thank you. Good afternoon. Good afternoon to your listeners as well.
I think we may have lost Vitus there, but trying to reconnect to Vitus Bang, who is a private legal practitioner, also a lecturer at the University of Professional Studies. This is related to Anas Anas declining, if you like, a court order to allow the former president of the Ghana Football Association, Nyantakyi, to identify him in chambers before Anas is able to wear his mask in open court to testify on the case concerning the number 12 expose. Now, since the number 12 expose, Nyantakyi and Anas Anas have been at some form of a back and forth, if you like, also involving the Member of Parliament, Honorable Kennedy Ejapong. This is a subject to be staying on. We'll get the opinions of Vitus Bang shortly as he shares some insight on what this means to the case going forward if Anas has decided not to allow himself to be identified without the mask by the former president of the Ghana Football Association. I understand Vitus is back on the line with us. Vitus, can you hear me?
Hello.
Can you hear me, Vitus?
Yes, please.
Great, I can also hear you. So what I was asking is what this means for the case going forward. Are we likely to see anything different, any reliefs being sought by anybody?
If you can take that again, I lost you for a bit. I was just saying that I no longer work with the university.
So what I'm asking of you, Vitus, is the decision that Anas Anas has taken with his Tiger IP team not to allow himself to be identified without the mask by Nyantakyi, clearly defying a court order, if you like. What does this mean for the case in the subsequent hearings?
All right, thank you very much. This is likely to have a lot of implications for the prosecution. I believe that Anas Anas was going to be one of the key or principal witnesses as far as the prosecution of that case is concerned. So to the extent that he is indicating his unwillingness to subject himself to the orders of the court, particularly giving an opportunity to the accused person to basically see him in the judge's chamber, right, unmask him, he's not willing to do so, and it's likely to have some serious consequences for the prosecution's attempt to prove their case beyond reasonable doubt. In the giving of testimony, a person with a personal knowledge of the facts is very critical in convincing a court of law that he or she is seized with the facts in question. So to the extent that Anas is not willing to go through this process, it looks as if the prosecution is likely to suffer a major hitch in their attempt to prosecute that case. And with Anas's unwillingness to testify in that manner, it is likely to be the case that his other counterparts, other witnesses in his team may also not be emboldened to basically go and testify for and on behalf of the prosecution. And all of this is against the backdrop of the fact that they might have been a bit concerned. Some kind of terror or fear would grab them because of the death of Ahmed Swaleh, who was a key member of their team. With the death of Ahmed, and they probably not seeing so much being done to basically arrest the perpetrators and bring them to book, definitely they will develop cold feet, and then they have to balance their own personal safety and security with the interest of advancing the cause of justice and promoting probity and accountability. They have to look at their own personal security first,
Right.
because they are on their own now.
Vitus, you were talking about the implications. Let's stay a little bit on that. So for now, what would the prosecution have to do, or what more could they do? And practically, what challenges are they facing right now to get Anas Armia Anas to identify himself in person to Kwesi Nyantakyi?
Well, the thing is that I don't know how many witnesses the prosecution intended calling, but be as it may, Anas's unwillingness to testify is likely to be a very major hindrance in the prosecution's quest to prosecute the matter, because I believe that he is likely to be a very principal key witness. And if his testimony is not considered, then it is likely to be considered as hearsay evidence. And hearsay evidence cannot be relied on to to basically convict anybody. The rules of court essentially do not allow for the admission of hearsay evidence. You must testify, the other side must have an opportunity to cross-examine you, question you based on your testimony. So if all of that is missing, that is going to have a lot of negative repercussions on the quality of the evidence that the prosecution will adduce before the honorable court.
Based on the fact of the interest that this case has generated or developed over the years, is the state able, or is any agency able, to compel Anas Armia Anas to do what is being asked of him by the court?
Well, thank you. A witness could be compelled to testify under some circumstances. If the testimony of the witness is so essential to the prosecution of the case, the witness in the appropriate case can be compelled to testify. But here, the problem is not really about him testifying. The problem is about his unwillingness to basically unmask himself, remove his veil. That is where the problem is going to be. And it is not likely that the state may be able to compel him to unmask or to take off his veil. And if that threshold is not crossed, then the point where he has to testify doesn't really come up. And even if they said that you can force a donkey to water, but you can't to the riverside, they can't force it to drink the water.
Right.
So even if the prosecution were to find some ways and means of compelling him to testify against his own wish, it is not likely that his testimony will go well for them, because his unwillingness will show in the kind of testimony that he will give.
Right.
And again, all of this is because of maybe fear, terror that has gripped them because of Swaleh's case.
Vitus, thank you so much for those perspectives. We've been speaking with Vitus, who is a private legal practitioner, also a law lecturer at the University of Professional Studies. Let us state that Anas Armia Anas has not declined to testify in the case going forward, but his issue is that he allowing Mr. Nyantakyi to see his real face without the mask. That is what is in contention.